Welcome to Tabernacle Talk. Tabernacle Talk is a Bible study podcast brought from Tabernacle Baptist Church in Essex, Maryland. I'm your host, Brian Self. We hope this podcast encourages you to know Christ, grow in His Word, and show His love to others. Let's dive right in. Welcome back to Tabernacle Talk. We are in a new portion of Isaiah, and from Isaiah chapter 36 to chapter 39, we're going to be looking at some narrative sections of Isaiah's actual interactions with people in real time. And so I'm looking forward to that. A lot of the things that we've been looking at over the past probably 25, maybe a little bit more than that, 25 chapters or so have been predominantly messages that Isaiah would have preached or poems of prophecy that he would have written that people needed to know about what was to come, what things God was against in wickedness, wrong dealings with people. And so that's been a lot of the last 25 chapters. And so that is a much harder read or walk through for many of us. We don't often tune our senses or our spiritual appetites to consume these parts of Scripture, but it's really, really important that we do so. And so I've enjoyed getting to go through this starting today, and then for the next, let me see, this is 36, 7, 8, and 9. So for the next 4 days, we're going to be looking at a narrative portion of Scripture. So let's dive into history. We're jumping into 701 BC. 701 BC in Jerusalem in the southern kingdom of Judah. This is 21 years after the northern kingdom of Israel has been destroyed by the Assyrian Empire. So that took place in 722 BC. And remember, when you're going BC, you're going from basically 0 BC backwards. So the larger numbers come before. So at 722 BC, Assyria destroys the northern kingdom of Israel. A few years later, the king of Assyria passes. His son is ascending to the throne. A lot of different nations go, oh, cool. Now that there's a change in leadership, there's going to be a whole lot of chaos anyway in Assyria. And so we think that we can stop sending tribute or our, if you will, taxes over to Assyria, and we can just live, we'll make sure we have an army or something. Assyria won't be able to, deal with us and bring us back into line. That was not true. Assyria was doing very well for itself at this particular time period. And so the southern kingdom of Judah was one of those nations that went, okay, we're going to use this time period to kind of get out from under the yoke of Assyria. And so Assyria is coming to destroy Judah. So that's where we're at right now. In the 14th year of King Hezekiah, this is Isaiah chapter 36 and verse number 1, King Sennacherib of Assyria attacked all the fortified cities of Judah and captured them. So there were some of these more protected, manned places within the southern kingdom of Judah, and Sennacherib is just doing a fantastic job of getting all of those cities. Verse number 2, then the king of Assyria sent his royal spokesman along with a massive army from Lachish, this is one of the cities, to King Hezekiah at Jerusalem. The Assyrians stood near the conduit of the upper pool by the road to Launderer's Field. This is the same place that Isaiah stood in when he gave the message to Ahaz several years prior, back in Isaiah chapter 7, where he told King Ahaz, don't trust Assyria and don't be afraid of the northern kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Aram or Syria above Israel. I know right now they're wanting to attack you, but don't ally yourself with Assyria. I will protect you. I will take care of Israel and Aram. So this is that same location that Hezekiah's dad, Ahaz, heard from the Lord at. Verse number 3. Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, who was in charge of the palace, Shebna, the court secretary, and Joah, son of Asaph, the court historian, came out to him. So here's the Assyrian spokesperson. He's coming, he's giving a message. He has a bunch of troops behind him. There's a contingent of those within the court of Hezekiah, king of Judah, that come out to hear what this spokesperson has to say. Verse number 4, the royal spokesman said to them, "Tell Hezekiah, the great king, the king of Assyria, says this: What are you relying on? You think mere words are strategy and strength for war? Who are you now relying on that you have rebelled against me? Look, you're relying on Egypt, that splintered reed of a staff that will pierce the hand of anyone who grabs it and leans on it." Basically, if you're leaning on the staff, this is a splintered reed, and so it can't actually hold up your weight, and so the stick is going to end up in your hand. And he says that's what it's like to rely on Egypt. This is the same type of thing that we heard several chapters ago that God says about Egypt as well. He says, "This is how Pharaoh, king of Egypt, is to all who rely on him. Suppose you say to me, 'We rely on Yahweh, our God.' Isn't he the one whose high places and altars Hezekiah has removed, saying to Judah and Jerusalem, 'You are to worship at this altar'?" Now here, this spokesperson doesn't realize the one true God and what God himself had, which was there was one altar. There was one altar there in Jerusalem at the temple, and all of the various high places and altars that were for false gods that in centuries past, the southern kingdom of Judah and the Israelites had put up all across the land. Hezekiah knew and loved and followed Yahweh, and so he actually had the high places be torn down and the altars to the false gods be destroyed. And he told Israel, like, we are supposed to be God's people, so we will only worship in this place that God has set up for his name. This Assyrian spokesperson, he didn't understand that. And so he thought, okay, well, this doesn't really make sense. If you have a God in your land, you're supposed to set up a bunch of different altars, and that way the God can have more food and he will be more willing to listen to you. And so he didn't understand how it worked with the one true God. I'll toss this in as well. God knows how he ought to be worshiped, and he has told us the way that he desires to be worshiped. Part of what we as Baptists historically have been is those that would believe in the regulative principle of worship. That is, we ought to worship God only in the ways that he has told us he wanted to be worshiped. He's given us the wedding registry, and he doesn't want us to come up with our own things that are not on the registry. Just buy the items that are there. So God has told us that he wants his word read, and he wants his word preached. You can read that in 1 Timothy, where Paul tells Timothy, "Till I come, give attendance to the public reading of Scripture, to doctrine, and to teaching." He says that it has pleased God through the foolishness of preaching to save those who need to believe. We are told to pray together. We can read that in 1 Timothy chapter 2. "I will therefore that men pray everywhere, lifting up holy hands without wrath and doubting." We are told that we are to observe the Lord's Supper. We would read that even in Acts chapter 2. Every day they went from house to house. And I'm going to turn over there real quick because I have blanked on what the specific phrasing of the verse is, and I want to make sure that I tell you guys correctly. Verse number 46, "Every day they devoted themselves to meeting together in the temple, and they broke bread from house to house. They ate their food with joyful and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people." And back in verse number 42 in Acts 2, "They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayer. And this is the registry, if you will, that God has outlined for us. And so Hezekiah was following the registry that God had for his day there in Israel with the temple there in Jerusalem. And so let's worship God the way that he desires to be worshiped, because as we'll see next episode in chapter 37, God's blessing comes for those that pursue his way and trust his wisdom, not their own. Verse number 8, the Assyrian spokesperson continues on. He says, you can't trust Egypt. Egypt's not going to help you out, southern kingdom of Judah. And then he says, you can't trust Yahweh because you've torn down a bunch of these altars. And so Yahweh is going to be less able to help you. Which, again, not how that works, but he didn't know that. Verse number 8. Now make a deal with my master, the king of Assyria. I'll give you 2,000 horses if you're able to supply riders for them. He's basically saying you don't even have 2,000 people in your army. Wasn't correct, but he said it. Verse number 9. How then can you drive back a single officer among the least of my master's servants? How can you rely on Egypt for chariots and horsemen? Have I attacked this land to destroy it without Yahweh's approval? Yahweh said to me, attack this land and destroy it. He's likely lying here, that you could say this about anything. Like, Allah told me this, or I can't remember offhand any of the names of the Hindu gods, but you could say that a god told you something that doesn't actually mean that it's true. Verse number 11, then Eliakim, Shebna, and Joah said to the royal spokesman, please speak to your servants in Aramaic, since we understand it. Don't speak to us in Hebrew within earshot of the people who are on the wall. Basically, he's saying some really scary things. He's speaking to them in Hebrew. They don't want the people to freak out. And so they're like, okay, well, talk to us in Aramaic. That way we can understand you, but all of these people here on the wall, that they won't freak out. Now, if you're trying to do negotiations, if I'm the Assyrian spokesperson, I'm going to tell them, no, absolutely not. Like, I'll keep speaking in the Hebrew, and hopefully those people get scared enough that then they, surrender all on their own, even without the instruction of their king. The royal spokesman replied in verse number 12, has my master sent me to speak these words to your master and to you, and not to the men who are sitting on the wall, who are destined with you to eat their own excrement and drink their own urine? Basically, you're going to undergo a siege because of, so instead of just fighting one another in an open field, if Jerusalem can just stay within its city walls, it'll be relatively safe, but it can't get out in order to, get new food or anything like that. And so eventually they're going to run out of food, which is actually what happened to the northern kingdom of Israel's capital city, Samaria, at various points, that they were put under siege, and it got so bad that people were having to, buy pigeon poop for food, and it was incredibly expensive. You can read about that. I forget if that's 1st or 2nd Kings. We'll go through that at some point on Tabernacle Talk. So he says these guys are destined for a really, really bad siege. And so, yeah, I'm talking to you, but I'm actually talking to these people because I'm hoping these people will do a coup and they will surrender and we won't have to have a giant, long stay here. Verse number 13, then the royal spokesman stood and called out loudly in Hebrew, listen to the words of the great king, the king of Assyria. Don't let Hezekiah deceive you, for he cannot rescue you. Don't let Hezekiah persuade you to rely on Yahweh, saying, Yahweh will certainly rescue us. This city will not be handed over to the king of Assyria. Don't listen to Hezekiah, for this is what the king of Assyria says. Make peace with me and surrender to me. Then every one of you may eat from his own vine and his own fig tree and drink water from his own cistern until I come and take you away to a land like your own land, a land of grain and new wine, a land of bread and vineyards. So here he's saying, we will leave you all in peace for a little bit when you surrender. We're going to get another group of people. We're going to bring them to the land here of Canaan, of Israel, and they will be the new people to dwell in the land. And then Assyria would take the Jewish people from the southern kingdom of Judah, and they would take them away and put them in a different land. It was one of the ways that Assyria made it so that people didn't rebel because they were no longer even in their homeland, and so they didn't really have as much of a reason to fight against Assyria. It was made much harder to do so. You're in unfamiliar territory, and you would likely not know the terrain, the geography, to be able to know, good spots for maintaining guerrilla warfare, all that kind of stuff. And so he's like, hey, if you surrender, you'll live here for a little bit till we come and move you guys away to a different land, which is what had happened already to the northern kingdom of Israel. So even as the Assyrians are telling the southern kingdom of Judah this is something that they saw 21 years ago happen to their fellow Israelites living in the northern kingdom. And so this would be an incredibly fearful time. Verse number 18, beware that Hezekiah does not mislead you by saying Yahweh will rescue us. Has any one of the gods of the nations rescued his land from the power of the king of Assyria? Where are the gods of Hamath and Arpad? These are cities. Where are the gods of Sepharvaim? Have they rescued Samaria from my power? Who among all the gods of these lands ever rescued his land from my power? So will Yahweh rescue Jerusalem from my power? Basically, none of these local deities have been able to protect their people from Assyria. And you guys think that Yahweh is going to make a difference? Verse number 21, but they kept silent. They didn't say anything, for the king's command was, don't answer him. Then Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, who was in charge of the palace, Shebna, the court secretary, and Joah, son of Asaph, the court historian, came to Hezekiah with their clothes torn and reported to him the words of the royal spokesman. So here's where this particular chapter ends, is on a cliffhanger of what's going to happen to Jerusalem. There are several cities already in Judah that have been destroyed and taken down by this army. 21 years ago, the northern kingdom of Israel was destroyed by this army. And so what is going to happen? Is Yahweh going to deliver Judah? We even read several prophecies that Isaiah had given in previous years about the fact that Assyria would be judged. It would come to nothing. It would be downtrodden, that Judah needed to trust the Lord, not trust in Assyria or trust in Egypt. What are they going to do? And the answer to that, we find it next episode in chapter 37, as Hezekiah brings this time of fear and trembling to the only one who could actually help. And so I'm really looking forward to that with you. Tune in next episode to Isaiah chapter 37. As always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts. And if you reach the end of this episode, comment the word pigeon. And if you comment pigeon, I'll give you some Tabernacle Talk points. I don't know what those are for yet, but you will get them. And looking forward to next episode with you. God bless.